So before we go into the new version of IMAPP, I want to make sure that all agents know all of the integration that IMAPP has when it comes to the MLS, specifically Matrix. So I'm going to click on Matrix real quick. We're just going to watch me for this portion. All right, when we come into Matrix, one thing I want to make sure that you know is whenever you input a listing into the MLS, when you come up here where you see add edit, whenever you input a listing for a seller, when you click on add new, when you select the property type, IMAPP talks directly with Matrix in order to find the property so that we can list it in the MLS. Okay. But if you're following along and you click where I clicked in Matrix, where you click on add edit, add new, you're going to notice there's some options on my add edit that you may not have, but it's for a good reason. I'm going to explain what that is. All right. So if you ever represent a buyer, I'm going to repeat that one more time. If you ever represent a buyer from a for sale by owner or directly from a developer, and it was a single family home or a mobile home, also known as manufactured, or a condo or a co-op style property, or even a townhouse, we want to make sure that you get credit for that transaction in the MLS. I want to repeat that one more time. If you ever represent a buyer from either a for sale by owner or directly from a developer, we want to make sure that you get credit for that transaction in the MLS. All right. For more information regarding this, again, anywhere I go, you're going to get a link. Okay. So I'm going to go real quick to miamirealtors.com/comp only sales. Okay. So if you, again, you ever represent a buyer from a for sale by owner or directly from the developer, we want to make sure that you get credit for that transaction in the MLS. All right. I'm going to go ahead. There, it's just not pasting. I'm having an issue pasting today, guys. Not sure why that's happening. But if you go here, miamirealtors.com/MLS/comp only sales or miamirealtors.com/comp only sales, you don't necessarily need the MLS. It's going to take you directly to this landing page. Again, we want to make sure that you get credit for those transactions. There's only one rule. You have to submit a copy of the closing statement and a copy of the comp only sales reporting form within 30 days of closing. Again, if you ever represent a buyer from a for sale by owner or directly from the developer, again, we want to make sure that you get credit for that in the MLS. You would just need to give us the settlement statement, the comp only sales reporting form, and you email this email, componlysales@miamire.com. Again, we want to make sure that you get credit for that transaction in the MLS. Okay, now back to our scheduled programming. Okay, what I'm going to show you guys real quick is how Matrix, as I mentioned, talks directly to IMAPP in order to find the property. So I'm going to go ahead and pretend that I'm going to list my townhouse. All right, perfect. So I went right into the option where we can, again, have that property auto-populated. But I want to cover a couple of things sometimes we don't see in Matrix. There's a little copy listing button right here. If you ever have a property that's available for sale again or for rent, and you're in the same company, you can copy any of your old listings by clicking on copy listing. All you have to do is input the listing number, click on fill from, and then that listing is automatically going to launch in the MLS. If you ever need to list a property outside of South Florida, an international property, you have the out of area or no tax folio button right here. Just wanted to explain what these two buttons are in the add edit. So real quick, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pretend that I'm going to auto populate my property so you can see how IMAPP communicates with Matrix to find it. Okay. But I used to be in the MLS department, so I want to make sure I mention that when you're trying to auto populate a property that you're listing in the MLS, less is more. If you have the PID, also known as the property identifier, also known as the folio number, just plug that in right there. That is all you need. The more you put into each section, the least likely it's going to find the property. Okay. But I'm going to go ahead and input the address of the property real quick. 24504, and then street name 115 for 115 Court. I'm going to click on search, and this is where IMAPP does its magic with Matrix in order to find the property. Right here, we have the tax record being pulled directly from IMAPP. That's going to include the folio number, the name of the owners, the address, and then this is where we can automatically launch the listing, clicking on Fill. From there, under location information, we get all of the information pertinent to the property according to its individual tax record, including the bedrooms and bathrooms, as you guys can see. Now, there's one more trick. There's another really cool trick that I want you guys to know about that is important when you're looking at a listing in the MLS. All right. If the listing starts with the letter A is an alpha. That means that that listing was put into the system by an agent that belongs to the Miami Association of Realtors. If I see an F, means that the listing was inputted by an agent that belongs to the Fort Lauderdale Association. Starts with the letter R, it means that the agent belongs to the Palm Beach Association. But we have Florida licenses. We can list anywhere in Florida. So don't worry about that part. What I want to make sure I mention one more time is there's a really cool thing when it comes to IMAPP when the listing starts with the letter A. And that, again, that listing could be anywhere in Florida. What I want to make sure that you know is when you're looking at a listing and you see this little asterisk next to the square footage and next to the folio, it means that the agent auto-populated that listing directly from the county record. Guys, we're going to go ahead and jump directly into IMAPP, but I wanted to go ahead and show you a little bit of some of those tips and tricks when you are in the MLS system. Okay, so bear with me a moment. I am going to go back to Matrix real quick. I'm going to jump in here. We're going to grab a listing just to look at. All right, let me just do a quick little, let's make sure it's not in another area. There you go. So I want to go over a couple of different things with you guys. All right, perfect. That's going to be in Sweetwater. All right. Okay. All right, now I went back to IMAPP and we're going to go ahead and go over a lot of the key features in the new version of IMAPP. And for those of you that are new to IMAPP, I want to make sure you guys know the foundations as well of the IMAPP system. Okay, Anabelia, if you don't have the ad edit, I say this nicely, it just means that your broker doesn't give you that ability to enter listings. If you are supposed to have that ability, your broker just needs to email us. They would email membership@miamire.com. We all have different listing permissions or lack thereof permissions. Again, that's by our broker. The broker decides if we can or cannot list. Some companies, only the administrator or an assistant lists, and that might be the case there for your brokerage. All right. Okay, absolutely. All right, now, before we get started, I want to make sure I mention that there is 3 different lookup systems inside of the IMAPP system. So the main lifeblood of IMAPP is the tax search. As I mentioned, this is a lookup system, right? What do I mean by lookup? I can use different combinations of filters in order to find different types of homeowners. I'm going to make sure that makes sense. But for those of you that are new to IMAPP, what I want to make sure that you know is what you see here, for example, sale date, sale price, property zip code, subdivision name, these are suggestions. You can repurpose any of these for whatever you want. All you have to do is, for example, you don't want to use sale date, you want to change it to something else. That's all you have to do is simply click, and then that's going to show you a list of different filters so that you can find what you want. But before we jump into searches, again, I just wanted to empower everyone. A lot of us kind of overthink IMAPP a little bit. These are suggestions that you can repurpose their lists. Okay. So again, tax search. What is tax search? As I mentioned, it's the primary way of searching. For example, I can find properties that are REOs. I can find bank-owned properties using tax search. I can look up tax delinquent homeowners. I can find properties in an opportunity zone. I can find properties where the units are occupied by the owner. I can find units that are not occupied by the owner. Long story short, the tax search is the main way of looking up everything, including looking up how the homeowner purchased their property using loan type and much, much more. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. So that's the tax search. There's also an MLS search built into IMAPP as well. But I want to make sure whenever you are working directly with a buyer that you send them listings using the Matrix system or our mobile MLS Touch application, or maybe services like RPR or Remind. I would not use IMAPP to send active listings to a serious buyer. IMAPP is a real estate agent tool so that we can perform analysis such as CMAs. We can try to get an estimation regarding the remaining loan balance on a property. It's more of a real estate tool. Okay, but the MLS search, what is the MLS search? The only reason why you should come into this section here under MLS search is there's an exclusive search. I am going to show you guys how to do it. Um, some of you guys have been members with us for years. I've been with the board for 10 years. I had the pleasure of working directly with one of our former trainers. He's now retired by the name of Nelson. Some of you guys remember Nelson. Uh, I try to mirror his jokes. He's just on a whole other level. I'm more of a dad joke guy. But he had a class back in the day called "Show Me the Money." One of my favorite classes. So I'm going to show you a search in here under MLS search. Again, it's exclusive. You cannot do this search anywhere else. It's called the expired, not relisted search. Why is that important? All right, some of you guys have, and I say this nicely, I don't mean this negatively. Some of you guys have brokerages that provide lead management or lead producing software, right? Where, for example, Mojo, or you get a list of expired listings on a daily basis. Some of those programs, and I'm not saying necessarily Mojo, but some of those programs, they give you expired listings daily. And the situation with contacting a homeowner the same day that it expired, again, I've been with the board 10 years, guys. A lot of that sometimes is the agent made a mistake. They forgot to extend the listing agreement, right? Or when you contact the homeowner, you're the 100th agent that customer spoke with, and they're probably not even going to pick up their phone. And if they do, they might not be the happiest, person wanting to talk to you. So the point of the expired, not relisted search, again, exclusive to MLS search and IMAPP, means I can go back in time. You can go back 6 months. You can go back a year, but I'm going to show you where you can go back maybe 2, 3 months where the listing expired. The property was never relisted, but the point is the smoke has cleared. The homeowner is no longer getting a bazillion calls from agents. They're going to be a lot more receptive about possibly selling their property. So I'm going to show you how to do that search using MLS search. Okay. And then we have the last lookup, which is foreclosure search, but it's a little bit different than what we can do under tax search. Okay. So foreclosure search, what I can do here under foreclosure search is I can find homeowners that are still in possession of the property, also known as pre-foreclosures, where they're somewhere behind on their mortgage payments. What I'm going to show you guys is a way where we can search by lease pendants. A homeowner typically received their first notice called a lease pendants after 4 missed payments. Again, this is based on the big lenders, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac in particular. There's, of course, private lenders that can be less flexible or even more flexible, but I'm going to show you where you can find the homeowners that got their very first notice, again, called a lease pendants. Homeowners get a second notice. It's called an NOD, also known as a notice of default, typically around 7 missed payments. But again, here, foreclosure search, it means that as I look up properties, the homeowner should still be in possession of the property. It is under pre-foreclosure. It has not been auctioned off yet. Tax search, though. I did say this in the beginning of class. Tax search does have the ability for me to search for REO, real estate owned properties, meaning after it's foreclosed, when the plaintiff wins the property at auction and they're now in possession of the property. Okay, so that's going to be under tax search. Just want to make sure I clarify. Okay, so without further ado, we are going to go ahead and get started. Absolutely, absolutely, Luis. Nelson, I love that man. He's amazing. I try to mirror him, but he was on a different level with his jokes. Okay, what we're going to do is I'm going to go to tax search, guys. And first, what I want to make sure that you know how to locate is whenever you look up any property on or off the market, right? I can see now within a property record an estimation based on the remaining mortgage balance. So if you're ever working with a buyer, maybe you're an investor, it's always good to see if it's maybe low, maybe they have a low balance, so I can figure out negotiation as far as how much they're going to get once they close on it. Important to know. I can also see permit history, rental licenses, and violations, and a little bit more. We're going to go into that now. So we're going to go to tax search right here. Okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to pull up my property. We're just going to use my property as a guinea pig to go over all of these features. All right. So I'm going to go right here where we're under tax search. I'm going to go under property address and we're going to use the contains option. Why do I suggest using contains when you're using IMAPP? When you're looking for a condo, especially if it has a unit number, what you would want to do in that situation is input the beginnings of the address right here. And if it's a condo unit and it has a unit number, you want to go into, as I mentioned, any of the other fields that you're not currently using. So for example, owner name is right next to property address. I can open that up and then I can use a field by the name of property unit number. I want to make sure my condo agents know how to best find, or even apartments or townhomes. If you want to find it by unit number, you need two fields. Property address, you put in the address, the beginnings of the address. So for example, if it's 50 Biscayne, I would put 50 Biscayne here. And if I'm looking up a very specific unit, I would go under property unit. I would use, instead of equal to, contains, because penthouses are very different, how they're recorded in the tax records, right? Different types of units are recorded a little bit differently. Some of them may have an A before the unit number, B before the unit number. Some of them have lines. Some condo buildings have lines, right? It's the other thing. So under contains, if I know a part of the unit number, I can come in here and then put that in. Just wanted to go over that for my condo agents. Okay. My property that we're going to look up, though, is not complicated like that for a condo. It's a townhome. So I'm going to come over here, just begin, putting in the beginning of the address. Property address contains, for example, 24504 Southwest 115. And from there, as long as you have a part of the address, right, you can go right over here and then click on Start Search. But before I click on Start Search, guys, I want to make sure you know that you can pull up any property all over Florida. Every county in Florida is available for you to look up, including running comparables. But I want to make sure I mention comparables in IMAPP are only sold units. I want to repeat that one more time. IMAPP only produces comparables for units that have sold, meaning IMAPP's not going to show me anything that's active or anything that's under contract. I would use Matrix to pull those active and under contract properties, and I would use maybe RPR. RPR combines both on and off market comps. Okay. But there's something very, very important that I want to make sure that you guys know about, and it's called value ratio. We're going to run a comparable on my property in just a moment. I want to make sure you guys know about a value ratio. Why is that important? A lot of the time, when you guys are running CMA, again, a comparative market analysis for a seller or a buyer, we have a mix of properties that were listed in the MLS, and then we have a lot of for sale by owners. The issue with for sale by owner units sometimes is we don't have access to photos. We sometimes have to leverage, if we keep that for sale by owner comp, by looking at its value ratio. I'm going to explain what that is once we get in there. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and click on Start Search. That's going to pull up my property, or because I use contains where I didn't put in the full address, if there's multiple results that matches what I typed in, those will show up as well. Okay, Herman, absolutely. So if your screen's a little bit different, Herman, you have to make sure to upgrade to the latest version of IMAPP. So we did that in the very beginning. If you're in the old one, look in the very top left corner. In the very top left corner, there's a little blue button that says click here to upgrade to the latest version of IMAPP, the beta version. Just click on that for me, and that's going to get you upgraded. Okay, perfect. So this is the new version of IMAPP. Super excited to go over all of the new changes. Okay, so first, if you're following along, before I even go into these sections, what I ask that you do is to come down here in the bottom right, go to your show report sections, and make sure that you have all of these check marked. Otherwise, for example, if you want to see how many times the property is sold according to the county record, you want to make sure that that is selected so you can see all of these little sections. Okay, perfect. So we're going to go ahead and move up here in the top left. So again, this is information compiled directly from the county appraiser's website. Okay, so some of us are new. Some of us don't know how valuable this information is. What do I mean by that? The new version of IMAPP, what it does is it doesn't just give me each property's county appraiser information based on its public record. I get components using a lookup on the county appraiser, including if there's violations and permit history. Traditionally, when you go to the county record, you kind of have to know the person's name and or the case number in order to find it. We get that in one clean page in IMAPP without having to get lost in the county appraiser's website. That's the main point that I'm trying to mention. Okay, now over here on the left, this is all of the information pertinent to the property and its use according to the county. So I get the PID, again, property identifier, also known as the folio number. All right. It is letting me know that it is a multi-unit. I get the address, the owner's name, the tax mailing address. Tax mailing address is the same as the property address, meaning the owner lives there. If the tax mailing address is different than the property address, there's a high likelihood that they don't live there. It could be a rental unit. It's going to give me the property use directly from the county. It is specifically a townhouse, as we can see. Very important, something I want to make sure I mention when you guys are listing properties in the MLS. You're going to get a homeowner sometimes that says, my property is waterfront. It is waterfront. Look up that property before you list it in the MLS because it will tell you if it is waterfront or not. Now, my property is in Homestead there in an area where a lot of folks are moving to. There's a lot of new construction development that's been growing here for about the past 15 years. What I was going to mention is, yeah, my property's not waterfront unless there's some kind of hurricane, to be honest. Now, farther down, we do have the complex name. Very, very important as you are farming for all of the units within a complex. Complex and subdivision can be interchangeable. So if you want to look up all of the units specifically in a complex, you can use subdivision. So this is in the Somerville subdivision complex. Okay, it gives me the township, range, and section number. And if you're working directly with a Navy SEAL, you never know. We get the coordinates, the legal description, and if I ever want to, for example, maybe I'm working directly with a seller and I pull up their property. I can use the map up here to see if there's any units near their property that might be active, like this one right here, anything that's pending, sold, withdrawn, withdrawn meaning it was canceled, meaning the listing agreement was canceled, expired, or I can see if there's any foreclosures as well here. So it's a great way to quickly, without necessarily having to go into Matrix, I can automatically see if there's any active inventory or if any units have sold or rented. Okay, all you have to do is click on the property record and that's going to take you straight into that property. Now we're going to go from left to right. So where we are right now is in the property tax record. But if this property was ever listed before, something I want my agents to make sure you're doing is if you're working with the for sale by owner and you're trying to convince them to allow you to list their property, always look up and see if it was previously listed by another agent. Go right here, MLS listing information. If that property was ever listed in the MLS before, you're going to find it here. So for example, this is when I originally bought the property years ago, back in 2014. We have the listing number when it was sold. Great way to quickly look up the property from an appraiser standpoint so I can jump through all of the listings and see if maybe the homeowner has modified the unit over time. Now, there's only one listing for mine. All right. In a moment, we're going to come into the find comparables. We're going to run a CMA. And again, the main takeaway that I'm going to show you in the CMA section for find comparables is I want to make sure you know about that value ratio. Okay. All right, now I am going to go back to property tax. Again, that puts me right back into the main property page, as we can see. But I want to show you the next amazing tool. That's a part of the new version of IMAPP. So as I mentioned earlier, we have the ability to get a estimation based on how much is left on the loan. So for example, right here, the property is currently being valued, meaning how much they believe IMAP believes that the property is worth according to sales in the area. They believe the property is worth about 452. It's giving me, as it says, estimated loan balance of 171, and it's giving me the amount of available equity on the property at 280,895, and it's letting me know how much equity has been established, meaning how much the property has grown based on its equity, and including the loan payments at a 62%. All right. Also, I can see any outstanding mortgages as well, the total amount right there. For example, we did refinance after we purchased back in 2016. It's going to give me the mortgage percent of the interest rate, the lender type of loan that it is. If, for example, if it's FHA, right, conventional, I can see that. Again, we did refinance. It's letting us see that right here. Standalone mortgage. And under valuation, once you switch out of equity, there is also a home buyer report letting you know how much that property has gone up in value. The property itself is going to be the black line. That's going to compare it directly to the city as well, which is going to be the red line compared to the blue line, which is the county. And then you have the green line, which is going to represent, of course, the zip code. And then yellow is going to be the overall track performance of all of them kind of combined. Okay, but want to repeat one more time, guys. If you're an investor, some of you guys do work as investors, right? One thing I want to make sure that you know is, again, we have that beautiful valuation analysis where I can get an estimation based on the remaining mortgage balance. Should I want to contact the owner and maybe try to motivate them to maybe sell it? Some of you guys do off-market calls. All right, so again, valuation analysis is absolutely brand new in the IMAP system. Okay. I also get residential MLS statistics as well. This is going to be based on the zip code of where the property is. I can look at current inventory, meaning what's active. It's going to give me a count, meaning how many listings per month. But if you scroll down, it's a little bit in reverse order. So it's showing as of 2023. But if you come down to the bottom, you're going to see the latest and greatest. It's going to mention current inventory for 33032 as of March, total of 357 active listings. It's going to give us a beautiful median price. Current days on the market, meaning homes are taking a long time. My neighborhood has the highest supply of new homes. I kind of feel like everyone in Miami's kind of moving, Kindle or south, right? It's a lot more cost effective. We have the absorption rate, meaning how many units are selling versus what's active, right? You take the active units, you have the sold units, and then you divide, and that's going to give you your absorption rate. We have the months of supply. Again, what is this? These are amazing talking points if this is your neighborhood. These are talking points that you can use on an Instagram post, YouTube, where you can go over how your area is performing, as you can see. And it's as specific as the zip code. I can do the same thing for sold listings. I can do the same thing for new versus sold listings. And then I can just look at all of the sales, again, specifically for the zip code of 33032, going back 2 years. All right. Okay. Now, because there's a lot to cover, guys, we're going to speed up a little bit. We're going to go back to property tax. okay, because there's more new things to cover. I am going to move down real quick. This has always been here, valuation and information. This is going to let me know how much the unit itself, meaning the improvement, the property is being valued, the land value, the just market value, the total assessed value, meaning how much the property is worth according to taxes, right here. If there's any exemptions for according to taxes for the property, meaning if it's a homestead exempt property, we have the current taxable value as well, the ad valorem taxes. And the other thing I want to make sure I mention real quick is right here, total tax amount. If the tax amounts for the homeowner are ever in red, right? If they're ever in red, IMAPP is indicating that they're behind on their taxes. And I also get an estimation on the current equity as well. I don't necessarily have to click on the valuation button. I get it automatically right here. Okay, perfect. So let me go ahead and jump into chat real quick. I think I have a couple questions. All right, Anabelia, but the zip code has different areas, subdivisions, for example, 33166. Absolutely, Anabelia. So I don't know if you're in my Agent 3000 class, the second one. There's another report. I love where you're thinking there. Use RPR. Use RPR or use the Agent 3000 stats report that I was showing you guys earlier so that you can generate that. Yeah, RPR does it fantastic. All right, cool. Now we're going to keep going. Now over here on the right, you do have external links. For example, maybe you have a buyer, maybe they're out of state, they're trying to buy a property down here in South Florida. We can provide them the directions, either by turn directions, or we can show them directions using Google Map, Google Street View, meaning I can see what the property looks like from the outside. Or if I want to have a second opinion on how much the property's worth, right? We're coming back with, I think it was like 450 RPR. If I click on RPR, I can get a second opinion on how much they believe the property is worth, as well, as long as I'm signed in with great patience. All right. That's going to show me how much they believe that the property is worth. All right. And then here's what's new. Here's what's new in the external links for IMAPP. We have Google Solar. What does that mean? If you ever have a buyer that wants to buy a property and they want an estimation on how much it would be to have solar panels on their property, they can take advantage of Google's Project Sunroof. What that's going to do is give them an estimation on how much it would be to buy, lease, or loan, or if they purchase using a loan, and then a breakdown on utility costs as well. All right, just wanted to cover that. All right, now again, external links, what's new is going to be the Google Solar. Now, if I scroll down, this has always been here. Sales information, this is, again, when the property changes hands according to the county record. For example, the most recent sale was back in 2014 through a warranty deed to protect the buyers back in December 15th of 2014. I get the price, the document that I can look up in property appraiser's website, as well as the grantee, meaning the person that bought the property. Okay, perfect. Now, as I go down, we also have building information. Again, this has always been here, but what I love about building information is I get the actual bedrooms and bathrooms according to the county record, the square footage, living area adjusted, and I get the square feet if it's available for some of the sub areas of the property. For example, the size of the garage, the size of the first floor. Sometimes I get the patio space if it's enclosed. I get a little bit of that if it is available. Okay, this is what's new. This is where I want to slow down. City interactions. City interactions is where I can find three things. I can find permit requests on any property where the homeowner filed a permit to modify their property. I'm looking at my Hialeah agents. I'm just joking. Again, also under city interactions, as I mentioned, we can find permit requests where the homeowner filed a permit to make a modification to their property. So why is this important? If I'm in Matrix, I have a buyer that wants to buy a property. They listed it as a 5-bedroom, 2.5-bathroom, but the county says it's a 4-bedroom. I want to see if they filed a permit in order to add, modify the property in order to add that extra bedroom. Or the other thing is sometimes some properties have what is called a multi-dwelling, where there's two different properties on the same folio number, right? Or maybe there's they're kind of separate. You can, of course, click on the folio number and see all of the units on that land. Okay, I'm going to come back down to city interactions. So, for example, back in 2021, there was a permit request in order to install awnings and shutters. Right there, the cost was 3,500. We have the contractor that did it as well as the permit. So again, this is new, guys. For my agents that have been with us for a long time, we had to get lost in the, and I say this nicely, the county appraiser's website in order to find this information. We get it in one clean landing page. What also shows up under city interactions is if that home ever received a code violation, and I mean any kind of code violation, from a noise complaint to, and I say this one almost kind of hesitantly, any kind of animal cruelty, or if there was a roof issue, or if the property has been deemed condemned, right? I can find violation history here under city interactions. I am going to show you where you can find a property that has that on it. Okay. Also, under city interactions, I can also look and find if that property has a rental license for Airbnb purposes. Want to make sure I mention city interactions will show me license history on a property. It's going to show me permits and violations right here. Again, brand new. Where would you look if know if a property has city interactions or permits but not showing? You would still go into the county website. For example, for miamidade.gov. I'm going to go ahead and put this in the chat so you have it. You would go to this exact page right here, and you would go to permits. You would select the type. You would confirm that you're not a robot, and then you have to look up by name from there. Okay, so we're going to keep going. The other amazing thing that I get in a property record is I get the assigned schools associated with that property, including the grade groups, how many kids are enrolled, the rating as well, the report card, and how far each individual school is from that subject property. Okay, it'll also let me know if this property is in a flood zone. So this property is zoned according to FEMA as AE. AE means that there is a 1% chance yearly that that property could receive a flood scenario at roughly 7 feet. For more information on FEMA zoning codes, all you have to do is go to FEMA's website or go right here, FEMA National Flood Hazard Layer, give that a click, and then that's going to give you all of those different FEMA codes. Okay, so that is a quick little rundown of the brand new updates as it comes to the property record. As I promised, I want to make sure I explain in good detail how important the value ratio is when we're weighing comps. So I'm going to come over here where you see find comparables. I'm going to give that a click. All right. Excellent, excellent. And what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to run a quick comparable from a mechanical standpoint. If you guys want a full breakdown on how to run a CMA, we have classes for that. There's the Matrix 301, right? And then there's also another class that we have called the CMA workshop, where we do more data specifically when it comes to creating a CMA. What I'm here to do is, what I want to show you is when you're running your comps, how important the MV ratio is. All of our tax roll programs has a value ratio. RPR has a value ratio, IMAPP, Relist, and some of the third-party programs that possibly your brokerage offers, they may have a value ratio. We're going to circle back, and I'm going to explain why this is important in just a moment. Okay, so when you're looking at when you're trying to run comparables specifically for example, a single-family home or a townhome, my suggestion would be to kind of treat your CMA like how an appraiser would do it. You're going to want to look for units that have relatively the same lot size and relatively the same living area. My suggestion is to look for lots that are plus or minus 20% in size, meaning just a little bit bigger or smaller. Living area, same thing, plus or minus 20% as well. Meaning if anyone was to step into these comparables, they won't be able to feel the difference in size. Plus, these are usually the metrics that appraisers use to find like property. I also suggest to first start in the same subdivision, but not go out more than half of a mile if the property is in an urban environment. Urban meaning a city environment. Okay. Another thing to do is because of, and I say this nicely, because of the volatility of the market where a lot of the single family homes are going from a super rigid seller's market to where there's a lot more single family homes on the market. I'm not saying buyer's market, but we're kind of entering into a balanced market for single family homes in some areas, not all areas, but some areas. Because of the volatility of the market, I would suggest to look at comps going back 3 months. All right. And what is most important as you look for comps is come to this section here. Make sure you're using all sources, using best available all sources. What that means is I get all tax sales, meaning for sale by owners, development units, and anything that was listed that sold in the MLS. If I use using best available all sources. Okay. Once you're done, you're going to click on update criteria, and then that's going to lock in your settings. So that's a little bit different than the old version of IMAP. The old version of IMAP, I had to click on a confirm button. I don't have to do that for this version of IMAP. Okay. I just click on update criteria. It keeps these settings for each and every comparable that I do. Okay. Now this is the main part that I want to go over. Over here on the top left, I get the subject properties information, meaning the property that we're running the CMA for, its address, the last time it sold, its market value, its assessed value according to taxes, as well as the living area, total land area, and then year built. We're going to come back to market value, and I'm going to explain why that's important. Okay. Further down, we get when the property was built, if it has a garage, pool, etc. And then we get an estimation based on its projected sale price. So this top part right here is the estimation based on how much units are worth according to their taxable value. So units in this area, again, the area it's showing you, I want to be very clear. Units are worth according to their taxes as low as 398 or up to 448 in this area. This is what we want to pay attention to. This metric, estimated range based on price per square feet, is how much the property is worth according to the sales that are coming back within our comps. It's letting me know that it feels as though the property at the lowest end would be worth about 367. It's fairly confident the property is worth around 417 or up to possibly 476. Okay. Perfect. So this is where I want to make sure that the value ratio makes sense. Okay. So property sold, this one at the highest at 445, it's this unit right here. It's the third comp coming back. It's letting me know that this property sold for 445. Okay. And its market value, meaning how much it's worth according to taxes, is roughly around 350. Okay. So now that we know these two metrics, this MV ratio explanation is going to make a little more sense. Okay, if you forget what I tell you, there's a question mark right here. Click it. Okay, when you click it, it's going to tell you the following. Sale price market value. For example, an MV ratio below 0.95 signifies that the property sold less than the county's market value, which is this figure. Okay. This is why I want to make sure you guys know how to weigh those for sale by owner comps. Okay. I'm going to keep reading it. I'm going to go back. Okay. A ratio of over 1.0 indicates it sold for more than the county would have indicated. A very high value ratio may indicate a property that has been split, right? Maybe it was a shotgun style property that had two garages where they split it into two multifamily units, or the property has been improved, meaning the property was upgraded. They redid the kitchen, garage. They improved the property since the county assessor's office assigned the market value. Okay. So what does this mean? Oh, absolutely, Seti. Thank you so much for coming in. Okay, so what does this mean? Now that we know sale price, meaning how much buyers are paying, we have market value, how much it's worth according to taxes, the closer it is to a 0.95 means that the property sold close to its assessable taxable value, which is going to be less. In this area, it's almost 100,000 less. So if a property sells, as I mentioned, close to a 0.95, it would probably mean that the property was, and I don't mean a tear down, it may have needed a great deal of work. Electrical, right? Mold issues, roof issues, or a combination of the above. Again, why is this important? I want to repeat. This very first comp that's coming back right here, that sold at 410, I have the R logo. R logo means that this transaction sold in the MLS, where I can look up this property's photos. That's going to allow me to see the condition of the unit when it was sold. All right. Okay, so I'm going to go back real quick. All right, when I don't have that R logo, it means it's a for sale by owner. I'm at the mercy at that point of the MV ratio. So for example, the one that's sold that's coming back in my comps at 389 right here, I don't have that R logo. I have to go by its value ratio, meaning it's a 1.1. It could mean that that property, because it's getting kind of closer to a 0.95, it could mean that that property needed work. Okay, but don't stop there. Don't just look at the value ratio. What I want you to do is, even if it doesn't have the R logo, click on the folio number, because sometimes some for sale by owners had a listing agent list it before they failed to sell it, and then the homeowner got the property sold by themselves, of course, with a buyer. Okay, but go here, click on the folio number. That's going to let you know if an agent maybe listed it before. All right, so I just went here under MLS listing information, and here is a listing. It's currently active for this property, right at the price of 389. It does look like they are trying to resell the property. Okay, so that is very, very important. Always come down here to the remarks. That's going to let you know the condition of the unit. All right, perfect. And always go into the property tax. That's going to show you under city interactions right here if there's issues going on with the property. So here's what's going on with this one. It's listed at 389 because it's a foreclosure. As we can see, the homeowner got their first notice on October the 29th. The homeowner might be listing it based on their remaining mortgage balance, right? We can always check the valuation analysis. Not too far off. Yep, there it is, 368. Of course, this comes to the banks, their approval and how much they're going to allow, but these are the little things that I want you guys to look for as you're running your comps. Okay, perfect. Now, we're going to keep going, guys. Again, always pay attention, please, always look at the MV ratio. That's how we know if we want to, keep or potentially remove different comps as we search. Okay, so that's a quick little breakdown of the science of comes to IMAPP. All right, I'm going to go ahead and go back into the homepage of IMAPP, and what we're going to go ahead and do is some basic lookups, how you can use IMAPP to find different types of home ownership. Okay, so I'm going to switch real quick. We are going to go from Miami-Dade to Broward County. We do service 5 counties, so I'm going to switch it to Broward County. And I want to show you a really cool way where we can look up properties. All right, okay, so we're going to treat this a little bit like a farming search. We're going to look in a very specific community in Broward County. We're going to look up the Silver Lakes community. What I want to do is we're going to first look at the units that are occupied by the owner. And I want to show you where you can perform a lookup where you might be able to find their contact information. Okay, and most importantly, how you can save that search. So we're going to go here under tax search. I'm going to use Broward County. And then this is what's different. The other thing that's different in IMAPP is how we can look up properties based on the name of the community or subdivision. What you do is you type in the name of the community and then it will pop up in the list. So I want to make sure I cover that for my IMAPP veterans that are new to the new version. So for example, you want to look up a community, all you have to do is type it out, and then it's going to give you suggestions below. This is another thing that's changed in the new version of IMAPP. Once you see the name of the community, you click on it, and then it adds that community where we can look up all of the units. Okay, what we're going to do is we're just going to go under property use code. We're only going to look at the residential units. If I go ahead and run the search like it is now, I'm going to get a mixture of the residential units that are there and maybe the amenities such as the clubhouse. I want to make sure that those don't show up. So I'm going to click on single family home. I want to look at the vacant units as well. So again, come down to property use code, click right here, single family home, and then I'm going to look at the vacant residential units. And I'm going to click on condominium. Condominium townhomes can sometimes classify under the condominium. Silver Lakes has a combination of single family and townhomes. So if you want to make sure you get townhomes in IMAPP, use the condominium option. Okay, so it's going to give me 00, 01, and then 04. Again, vacant, single family, and then condo. All right. As I mentioned, I want to look at the units that are occupied by the owner. As I mentioned, these are lookups. I can reposition these for whatever I want. The field I need so that I can select the units that are occupied by the owner, I can go to owner name because in alphabetical order, it's right here. I can go from owner name to owner occupied. It's just a quicker way to find it. I'm going to use owner occupied equal to, I'm going to say yes, meaning I just want the units that are occupied by the owner. But if you're a farmer, what I mean by farmer is not milking cows. If you're trying to get leads, maybe you're trying to find different types of homeowners that might sell their property, owner occupied yields two different customer sets. If I use yes, it means that I'm going to find the units that are occupied by the owner. I could try to get their contact information to see if they want to sell it. I use no instead. This is where I can maybe create a mailer that can go directly to the property address. And there's a good chance there might be renters there. I want to make sure I mention there's a good chance there might be renters there, and I might be able to convert those renters to buyers. So again, owner occupied, yes and no yield two different customer data sets. Okay, so I'm going to use owner occupied equal to yes. We're using the subdivision of Silver Lakes at Pembroke Pines. We're looking at the residential units there. All right, this is going to be a basic search that we're going to start with. I'm going to click on start search. And then boom, that's going to give me all 1,792 units that are there that are occupied by the owner. Now, this is going to be a mix of what is, not available for sale, meaning what's off market, meaning the homeowners are not even thinking about selling the property. And then this is also going to give me homes that might be for sale. So if you're farming, meaning you want to contact the homeowners that are not already working with an agent that's selling the property, go to sort. And then in order to remove anything listed in the MLS, again, go to sort, this little button, and then you can immediately find any of the units that are already for sale so that you can remove them should you want to download their contact information. So I'm going to go right here. I'm going to go to sort MLS status ascending, and any of the units, if they're for sale or for rent, they're going to show up here at the very top. Okay, so now that I'm sorting by MLS status ascending, it's going to show me the units that are for sale or for rent at the top. If they're for sale or for rent, I'm going to get this little green active button. It's letting me know that this unit is active. Again, 1792 Northwest 9th Court. It's letting me know that this unit is active for sale. It was listed back in February the 18th for $1,074,000. I have this other unit, second unit, that is listed at almost 1.2, listed back in January at the beginning of the year. Again, this is going to give me green, is going to let me know if it's for sale or for rent. Looks like a great deal of these units are for sale. Now I'm going to go down. Here's one that's for rent, number 7 at 4,000. But if I come down, let me go down. I can also see any units under contract. For yellow flag is going to mean that they're under contract. Blue flag means that there's some kind of history that the unit has sold in the MLS either recently or within the past couple of years. doesn't necessarily mean that they just sold it. Let me try to find one that's older. Trying to go back. Yeah, there's August already, 2024. Okay, that one just sold March 21st. Trying to find a really old one. Okay, yes, most of these are relatively recent. Okay, but you'll find here in the list a couple of solds from years, a couple of years ago. All right, there's other flags. I'm going to try to see if I can get other flags, but you're probably doing, if you're doing what I'm doing, the other thing I want to make sure I mention is you probably got stuck at 25 properties on your page. I do want to make sure I mention that you can show up to 100 properties per page. So if you just did what I tried to do, you probably got stuck at 25. Come over here where you see show and switch it to 100 results per page. That's going to show you 100 properties. Okay. And if you want to jump from, again, we have 1,792 units. If you want to jump to the next 100, you can do so by clicking this button right here. All right. Let me go down. There we go. This is the other flags that I wanted to cover real quick. If I see a red flag, it means that it was canceled. Now, a couple of these are canceled, and these little gavels let me know that they are under foreclosure or they received their very first notice. When I don't see the gavel over the red flag, for example, this one, it means that it was just a canceled listing. I see the red with the gavel. There's a strong likelihood that the agent that was representing the seller, right, when they were trying to sell it as a short sale, they had to cancel it because the property was foreclosed on, where the bank is now in possession. So always double check these red with the gavel. I would jump into the property record and see if the auction date has passed. This one is coming up actually in 4 days. It's probably why they canceled it. Okay. All right. Boom. All right. Okay. The goal, though, I'm going to go back to the first 100. The goal is to remove the active listings before I export. Now, there's going to be a lot. Actually, there's not too many. There's 28 active listings, two that are under contract, so not too many clicks to allow me to click on all of these at once. That doesn't work on this program, but I'm going to go ahead and just, my goal is to remove these properties so that we can create an Excel spreadsheet for all of the units that are not for sale. So I can show you how to download and possibly get contact information of each homeowner. Just want to cover the export phone numbers real quick. I'm just going to go ahead and say that we're going to remove these active and under contract properties from my export. All right. This is also something that changed. In the old version of IMAPP, we had a little button at the top. In order to remove anything from our list, we had a little commit changes button. That's changed. You now click at the bottom. There's this little hide selected button. That's another thing that's changed in IMAPP. That's going to allow me to remove those active listings or those under contract listings, as you can see. All right, from there, if I want to download the other results of my search, I can click on download. All right, I can get the full tax record, all of the information about that property according to the county record. If I just want to maybe create a mailer, I just want to get the owner's address. I have owner address. As I mentioned, if I do that owner occupied no, I can get the property address. That way, if I'm using a mailer system, I can try to convert those renters to buyers. But this is what's really cool. This was not available in the old version of IMAPP. I can export phone numbers as well. Under field list, I can download all of the information, including the property address and the telephone number. Or if I want to be picky, if you want to remove anything, for example, maybe we all know these properties are in the United States, right? If you want to remove anything out of the export, okay, this is a little bit different than Matrix. It's a little bit of the opposite. So everything that we see on the left is what's going to be in the export under selected fields. And if I want to remove anything, for example, I know that these are all in the United States. For example, if I don't need the country, I can click on this little button there. it's going to remove it from the export. But again, anything on the left is what's going to show up in the export, including telephone number. All right, I'm going to go to file format so I can show you how to export. I could download this list as a CSV, an Excel spreadsheet, or a DBF as well. All right, I'm going to click on CSV, click on create download. And one thing I want to make sure I mention is while yes, this export yields phone numbers, it's not going to let me know if the telephone numbers are on the do not call list. I would still have to do my due diligence to check the do not call list from donotcall.gov or directly from Florida directly. They have their own do not call list as well. Okay, so how did I do this? Okay, if you're following along with me and you're doing the search, want to make sure I mention that you have the ability to click this little button here, modify criteria. Modified criteria will put you right back into your search and it will repopulate your filters if you want to maybe change something. For example, I'm going to switch it to owner occupied no, so we can look at the renter units there. Okay, so again, I went to tax search, just want to make sure I cover that. I switched it to owner occupied equal to no in the subdivision of Silver Lakes and Pembroke Pines, and we're looking at vacant units, single family, and then the condominium, rather townhome units there. Okay, perfect. Now, here's another really cool thing that you can do. I'm going to switch it out of, we're going to switch it out of Broward. Let's switch it back to Miami-Dade. Okay, I love international research, right? I like to know which country, foreign buyers, where they're coming from. I want to cover that real quick. One thing I want to stress though, before I do that is Matrix is better. Matrix is better at providing us with international buyers, where they're coming from and where they're purchasing. IMAPP, meaning the county record, doesn't find foreign buyers that well, unless they're from Canada, Puerto Rico, or if we have the full address from the county appraiser from where the buyer purchased from. Matrix finds foreign buyers as far as research better than a tax record. Okay. Out of state buyers, New York buyers, New Jersey, all those kind, like Texas. Again, out of state buyers, IMAPP does that very well. Okay. So I'm going to switch it to Miami-Dade. What we're going to do this time is I want to show you going back a year, how we can find all of the out of country buyers using IMAPP. I still want to cover how that can work in the IMAPP system. So again, I switched it to Miami-Dade. Let's look up Doral. I'm going to go ahead and put in 33178 as the property zip code here. So again, property zip code equal to 33178. All right. Now what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go to owner name because again, it's close to the field I need, which is owner is U.S. resident. Owner is U.S. resident equal to no. Okay. But if I do owner is U.S. resident equal to yes, and then I add another one, which is owner. I just want to show you as many combinations as I can. Owner is Florida resident equal to no. Again, I use owner is U.S. resident equal to yes, and then owner is Florida resident equal to no. This is how I find my out-of-state buyers right here. I don't use owner as Florida resident. I use owner as U.S. resident. I put no. This is how I find my foreign national buyers. Just want to show you different combinations of the tax search. Okay, so I'm going to use owner is U.S. resident equal to no. Property zip code 33178. And I want to find recent sales, recent buyers. So I'm going to go to sale date. If I use greater than or equal to, it will allow me to, for example, go back since January the 1st. It's going to show me all of what's available, all of the recorded sales in 33178 that were from foreign buyers since the beginning of the year. But I did mention something. Always go down to your property use code, because if you don't select residential and you're only a residential agent, you're going to get commercial sales. So I'm going to go ahead and say single family home, condominium, and let's go ahead and do vacant residential. Maybe the foreign national bought it using vacant residential, but they haven't moved into the property. Okay. Boom. From there, I'm going to click on start search and it's going to let me know owner is US resident equal to no. It's going to let me know if they have anything in the system that's matching that criteria. So I just clicked on it. It's not coming back with anything. This is what I meant by, guys, Matrix does foreign national searches just a little bit better. Okay, but what we're going to go ahead and do is I'm going to remove the date right here. I'm going to start the search without the date. This is my proof that Matrix does the foreign nationals a little bit better than IMAPP. I'm only pulling 99 cells in Doral. And Doral is a international market. I think we know that. Okay. Perfect, perfect. All right, now I'm going to go back. I can also not search by property type. I can leave that alone. Click on start search. That's going to give me a mixture of anything that was residential or commercial as well. But again, international, my best bet on that is going to be Matrix. Okay. Perfect. Now, that's a quick little breakdown of how we can look up different types of things using the tax search. All right. What I want to cover, guys, next is the MLS search, expired not relisted search. I'm going to show you how to save it so that you lock that in for all of your customers. Okay. So we're going to look in the Miami-Dade area. I'm going to look specifically in the county of Miami-Dade. We're going to find all of the expired listings that stayed expired since the beginning of the year. So again, we're going to come over here to MLS search. All right. Perfect. And first field is property type. We're going to go to property type equal to, and then I'm going to select single family. But before I do that, I want to make sure I mention that residential right here. If I click on residential, that's going to give me a mixture of expireds that were listed for sale or for rent, meaning I get everything residential. If I just want rental expirations, I have rental. If I want to look up duplexes or triplexes or fourplexes that were available for sale but that expired, I have residential income. For my commercial agents, you can also look up commercial expireds, including business opportunities where they were trying to sell the trade name of the business, general commercial properties. I also have the ability to look up condo co-ops as well as condo hotels and condominiums, land, and mobile. One thing I want to make sure that you guys know about, I've seen this already twice on the news. The closer you get to the beach, there's a lot of landowners that own mobile home parks. What they're doing, and I'm not saying all of them, some of them, they're renters in the mobile homes are month to month, right? So what they're doing is they're ending the lease after they're done with that month. What they're doing is the landowner is rezoning that their mobile home folio for condo once they reach out to the city. So why am I mentioning that? That's a good way to farm. I would suggest to kind of look up those areas for those being affected. You might be able to turn them into buyers, or you might be able to turn them also into, renters into maybe a different area. Just wanted to make sure I highlighted that. Okay. Now, what we're going to do is, again, property type equal to, I'm going to go ahead and click on single family. We're going to pull all of the expireds, single family homes in the county of Miami-Dade. Okay. So we have property type equal to single family. The next important filter is listing status. We're going to use equal to, but I'm going to use expired, not relisted. So again, listing status equal to expired, not relisted. Not expired, but expired, not relisted, meaning the homeowner never had another agent relist their property after it expired. Okay. Now, if I run the search as it is right now, I'm going to get every single expired listing that stayed expired across the whole system. We want to add the county that we want to look up or the city. So you want to go into the field that is near the spelling of the field you want to switch it to. So we're going to switch it to county, right? County's not too far away from city. So I'm going to go to city because it automatically populates that for me. I can switch it to county. I'm going to use county equal to, we're going to go ahead and look up Miami-Dade. All right. We need one more field, which is called expired date. Okay. So I'm going to go over to address, and then I'm going to switch it to expired date. We're going to use greater than or equal to, meaning if I put January the 1st of 2025, I get every single expired all the way up to today's date. Okay. Now there's two ways to enter the date. You can type it in manually, or you can click on the flag and then just simply click on the date that you want to use. Okay. So this is, again, a part of that Show Me the Money class. I wanted to make sure I show you guys how you can look up those expired properties that were not relisted. Again, you have to be under MLS search. We use listing status equal to expired, not relisted, property type equal to single family. Just for this quick sample, we're going to go back since January the 1st. We're going to use Miami-Dade County, but we can be as specific as a zip code if you want. That's up to you. Okay. From there, I'm going to start the search. And before I show you the results, let's save this search so that we lock it in. So I'm going to click on Save Search. We're going to name this our Miami-Dade SF for single family homes expired since 01/01/2025. You can add a description as well. You could put farming and then click on save. And in a moment, I'm going to show you where these saved searches go. Okay. All right. Let me do that again. That was a little weird. Save is not working. I wonder if the Wi-Fi is a little. There you go. All right. We'll see if it saved it or not. Okay. But from there, right, that's going to show me all 465 units, single family homes all over Miami-Dade that have expired. When you see the number, for example, this one's 31, it's letting you know that it is the 31st result. So you would go down to 31. That's going to be the address. So you have two different ways to look up these expireds. You can use the map. So for example, if you're an agent that is in the Kendall area, right, we can look up 100, 99, 84, 82, 11. Those are going to show up here in our results. Okay, perfect. Now, another thing that you can do is, as I mentioned, by clicking on Modify Criteria, it puts you back where you were, where you can change any of your filters. The other thing I want to make sure I mention is when you save a search, like we just did, you're going to find all of your saved searches here under My Saved Searches. This is going to show you a list of your searches that you've created. All right. There's two different icons that I want to make sure you guys know about right here. All right. So if you click on the pen and paper under any of your searches, right? If you click on the pen and paper, it adds the filters, as you can see. What I want you guys to get in the habit of doing is click the pen and paper, because what you're doing is you're copying your search. And then if you want to switch it to another area, you just saved yourself about 4 to 5 steps. Clicking the pen and paper is how I copy and then just change the area so that I can farm that other area for sellers. I click the play button. What that does is it puts me into the current results. For example, if you pull up this search a month from now, it's going to show you all of the expireds that stayed expired to that day all the way back since you put in the, I'm going to go back real quick under Modify Criteria, the expired date that you selected. Okay. All right, perfect. We're going to jump into foreclosure search, and I want to show you how you can find those homeowners that got that very first notice, again, called a lease pendants. All right. Okay. Now, there's a class that goes hand in hand with what I'm about to show you. It's called the Working with Investors class. There's the Working with Investors 101, which is everything and anything about foreclosures, short sales, bank-owned properties. And then we have the 201, which is primarily about opportunity zones and other ways to find deals as far as properties for an investor. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of that taste of that. We're going to go here under foreclosure search in. As I mentioned one more time, these are suggestions. You can replace these for whatever you want. Matter of fact, if you switch things kind of like this, you can save that as your template. You can reorganize your list to however you want. If you want to reset it back to factory, there's the reset. If you typed in a bunch of things here and you're getting nothing, you can click on clear off fields. It deletes everything. Okay, I'm going to click back on reset. Okay, so again, I need the lease pendants. So I'm going to go to loan amount because it starts with the letter L. I'm going to click on lease pendants equal to yes, meaning they did get their first notice. Filing date is going to let me find the homeowners that received their very first notice. So, for example, I went to the loan amount, switched it to filing date, and then again, greater than or equal to, it will allow me, for example, if I use February the 1st, it's going to give me every single homeowner since February the 1st that got that first notice. Now, under property use code, um, something I want to make sure I mention, IMAPP is amazing at residential foreclosures. If I have commercial agents in here, if you want to find commercial owners that are still in possession but they're behind on their payments and you want to contact to see if they want to sell it, don't use IMAP. Use RPR. I find that RPR does that just a little bit better for commercial. Okay, we're going to use single family. Again, we're finding the homeowners that got their very first notice that they're behind on their payments since February the 1st that have single family homes, condos. There's probably going to be a lot of those. I say that because of assessments um, or increases in insurance. It's also another thing that's driving that factor for condos. We're just going to use, in this situation, single family home. This search is that easy. Again, lease pendants, yes. Filing date, you could put a date of your choosing. We're going to go back since February the 1st. And then looking at single family homes, there is a total of 248 homeowners in Miami-Dade that own single family homes that got their very first notice. Now, I'm curious to compare that to condo owners. How are we doing? 122. Okay, so that's happening a lot over here. Okay. Ooh, let me go back. Let me switch it back to single family. All right, start. Okay. Yeah, looks like there's a lot more single family homeowners that are having issues, as we can see. Okay. Now, kind of like what we did in the original search where we were looking for units that were not occupied by the owner. What you want to make sure that you do, even in this list, should you want to contact the owner to see if they may want to sell it with the bank's approval, you want to sort and then immediately find anything that is already on the market for sale. You want to eliminate. So since the 1st of February, there is already, wow, 30 units where the homeowners are already trying to sell it. They're behind. Okay. There is one that's already under contract in yellow. All right. I have one that was canceled. All right. And then I have one. I actually have several that have a sold history. Again, doesn't mean necessarily recent. All right. This one, for example, they did have it for rent back in May the 1st for $1,750. But again, unfortunately, that homeowner is still behind. It doesn't look like that rent is helping them pay off that mortgage. All right. Okay. So again, get in a habit. If you do want to export these homeowners, you want to make sure you remove anything that's green and yellow. You click on height selected. It's going to remove those properties directly from your results. Okay. Again, always get in a habit of saving your search. Again, we're going to call this the Miami-Dade lease pendants. Since we always want to put since so we know what dates we used. February 1st, 2025. And I click on save. Boom. That easy. Okay. Now, the other thing you want to do is once you find a unit that is not showing up with the active indicator, you want to see if they filed for bankruptcy. We're just going to cover that real quick. All right, let me look for a unit that doesn't have an indicator, like number 56. This unit's going to be located in Cutler Bay. All right, the plaintiff is the bank that's, filing that lease pendants against the defendant, which is the owner right here. What you want to do is you want to see if you want to contact the owner. You always want to know if that property is the owner's filed for maybe bankruptcy, right? Or if there's an auction date, that's another thing. So come here under foreclosures. You can get the case number, the date when they received the notice, and then you can, of course, look up and see if it's still active or not. You have this little button that says the court website. I just want to show you how you can look up a property using the Miami-Dade County Clerk's website. Okay, so I want to see if this is still open. Again, not the best property to look at. It is corporate owned, but if it was owned by like a regular owner, non-corporate owner, we would be more interested in contacting the owner to see if they want to sell it. But all right, okay. So let me show you how you can look up this up in the county record. You can do so by going here, the court website, if you're an IMAPP, or you can just simply go to Miami-Dade clerk.gov, and then you go right here, local case number. From there, you look at the case number associated with that property right here. You put in the year, which is for this one, 2025. You go to the case code. So this is a circuit civil, which is what the CA means. You go to case codes, you click on CA, and then you enter the sequence number, which is the ending. You click on I'm not a robot. You have to go through a little bit of a questionnaire. Click on verify, search, and then that's going to let you know if it's still open or not, or if the homeowner filed for bankruptcy. As you can see, that's how we would look that up in the county record. All right, next up is we're going to cover the brand new map inside of IMAPP. If you want to search for properties using a map, you could do so by clicking on the map browse. Hello everyone, this is Tyson with the Miami Association of Realtors, providing you with a quick tip on how to create mailers using the IMAPP system. For this example, we're going to focus on Broward County. We're going to look within a subdivision by the name of Emerald Hills. In order to create the mailing labels, we're going to focus on absentee owners. So the very first step is we're going to select the county as being Broward. And then from there, we're going to repurpose the field here that says owner name. I'm going to switch this to owner occupied and then select no. All right, and then from there, I'm going to take advantage of the field subdivision name, and then I'm going to simply type in Emerald Hills and then give it a click. And we're going to look for local absentee owners, meaning they are in the state of Florida. So I'm going to take the field here that says property address and then switch that to owner is Florida resident. I'm going to give that a click and select yes. And with this combination, selecting owner occupied no, owner is Florida resident yes, within the subdivision of Emerald Hills, this will find me the absentee owners in the state of Florida so that we can create the mailing labels. All right, now before we move on, when you do filter by subdivision, you want to make sure that you remove any of those commercial amenities by going here where you see property use code, and then select the type of property that is in that particular subdivision. For example, I am going to select single family home as well as condominium. And then from there, I'm going to click on Start Search. This provides me with the 27 absentee owners that are in the state of Florida within Emerald Hills. And if I want to create mailing labels, I can do so by clicking here where you see mailing labels. Now, before you do decide to create mailing labels, keep in mind that some of these property owners may already be working with another agent. So you want to make sure that you quickly remove anything that is already listed in the MLS. In order to eliminate homeowners that are working with someone already, go right here where you see results not sorted, give that a click, and then move down. And then from your sort options, click on MLS status ascending. And that will put anything that's on the market or under contract at the very top. Here we have these 4 properties where the homeowner is already working with an agent. We could see that with this little green active flag. What we want to do is remove these prior to creating the mailing labels by selecting them. And then from there, click on hide selected at the bottom. That way we can generate the mailing labels
to off-market property owners that are not working with someone at this time. All right, so under section content, we are wanting to send the piece of mail directly to the owner's address. From here, we are going to select owner address. From there, we're going to select under file format. For this example, we're going to use PDF, but we also have Word doc and CSV available. Moving over, we have the section page layout. We're going to move forward with the industry standard Avery 5160. We're going to move over to the section customization options, and we're going to select remove duplicate results based on unique property address. And we're going to only retrieve labels with valid zip codes, and then click on create labels. This will send the PDF file directly into your downloads, which you can open and review within your computer. Hope you found this tip helpful. You can find other tips like this by going to our YouTube channel by simply going to youtube.com/miamitrainers. Thank you for watching. Hello everyone, this is Tyson, one of your Miami trainers, bringing you a tip on how to locate and search for tax delinquency in the IMAPP system. Now, in order to do this search, you're going to start in the tax search option. For this demonstration, we're going to look specifically in the county of Miami-Dade. For this example, a zip code. So I'm going to go over here where you see property zip code, and then from here we're going to use 33032 for this demonstration. And the fields that you see within the IMAPP system, they can be repurposed for whatever you want. They are pick lists. So for example, I can repurpose sale date and then switch that to taxes are delinquent, and then I'm going to select yes. For this example, we're going to focus on single family homes. So I am going to go ahead and go under property use code and then select single family home. And then from there, I'm going to click on start search. From here, in order to see how far behind the homeowner is on taxes, simply click the little blue button. This is going to take you directly into the property record. And in this section, value information, be sure that the arrow is pointing up. This will provide you with how far back the homeowner is behind on their taxes. From here, you want to make sure to click on the county tax collector button. This will take you directly into the county record for that property, and if there is a bill in the section amount due, this means that the homeowner has still not paid for those taxes. In this scenario, the current property owner that we are looking at is only 1 year behind on their taxes. Typically after 2 years of tax delinquency, the county will auction off the taxes as a tax deed on the website miamidade.realforeclose.com. I hope you found this tip helpful. You can find other tips like this by going to youtube.com/miamitrainers. Thank you for watching. You can zoom in to see property or zoom out. And another really cool advantage of the new map is being able to tilt the map with this little button right here. This will allow you to see the property lines, boundaries, including the improvements. And then you can search for listings in the MLS, including active listings, properties under contract, sold units, properties that were canceled, expired, and properties under distress, also known as foreclosures. You can see details on the listings by clicking on the property. And over here on the right, we have some additional layers that we can add, including switching the map from the street map base layer to a flood hazard base layer, and an aerial satellite view. And I want to show you additional overlay boundaries that we have. We can see residential developments. I can see each city's boundaries. I can see the county's boundaries. I also have a overlay for elementary schools, properties and opportunity zones, high school, middle school, and of course zip code boundaries as well. All right, the next thing I want to show you is the parcel boundaries, where we can see the lot line of each property. And we also have a property use classification map. Yellow will represent residential properties. Darker yellow will be for multifamily properties. Gray will be commercial properties. Red will typically be federally owned properties, either city or county maintained properties. And the next part, you have to be zoomed in on the map in order to use the parcel annotations. First one that we can filter is the estimated value of each property. We can also see which property has a history of code violations and possible active violations. I can see properties that are tax delinquent. If I only see one indicator over a property, it means that they're a minimum of 1 year behind on taxes. When you encounter 2, just like this one, it means that they are 2 years behind on taxes. We can also see which property has high or low equity. In green, that's going to indicate high equity, red's going to indicate low equity, and brown will indicate, going to show us properties that somewhat have equity established. We also can see each property's house number. We have a rental properties option as well to see properties that have a rental license, such as for Airbnb purposes. They will show up here in yellow. I also have a useful occupancy filter. Dark green means that the homeowners lived there for quite some time. For example, this property. And then the lighter green means that they may have recently purchased the property. For example, this one back in 2020. And I can also see the last sale price. And I can also see which property is vacant as well. Another thing that you can do is use the measurement tool. For example, if you're working with a customer that has a boat, we could figure out the frontage. And if we double click on a property after clicking measurement, this will give us the lot dimensions, including the overall square footage of the unit, as you can see. As we're searching, we can also save the map, which will go immediately into our downloads. This is a quick rundown of the brand new map within the IMAPP system. This is a great option for those of you that know Florida like the back of your hand and want to search for different types of property ownership. Thank you for watching this video. You can find more tips like this by going to our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/miamitrainers. Again, thank you so much for watching.